Hello, hello, Awesome Soul here, and today we are going to go over my latest and greatest creation, the Sealer, an ink and paint mage that shapes the battlefield with special sealing magic. So, for those of you that have been keeping up, you know there was a slight delay getting this out, but fret not. The moment this video is live, the Sealer is available to download on the DMs Guild. Link in the description. So, we are going to go over this class today. I'm going to give you some insights onto how I designed it, why things are certain ways, and maybe give a little bit of tips on how to play it. So, here we have the table of contents, pretty self-explanatory except for my lovely patrons, who are not self-explanatory. I don't know where I'm going with that, but the point is, thank you to all of you guys out there who are supporting what I do, and if you want to get your name on future lists like this, well, I think you know what to do. Anyway, we'll cut that short and get into the actual juice, or the paint, or ink of the class. So, I'm not going to read this all out. If you want to go into specific wordings while I'm going through this, feel free to pause. The basic gist of what a sealer is all about, it is mainly themed around paint and ink. That's why you've got our lovely lady down here with the massive scroll on her back, full of secrets, and a magical paintbrush able to scribe magical ink or paint wherever she goes. So it's a very artistically minded kind of class. It's all about making scrolls, it's about performing rituals, and it's about making seals. Who would have guessed? That is this class's unique mechanic, and we are going to go into it shortly. But I'm going to go over the class table because, as you can plainly see here, this is a full caster. Something I haven't actually done before. All of my classes up till this point have just basically been half-casters, with the exception of the Channeler, who was my first martial class. And I was like, okay, cool, I really enjoyed making a martialist. Now let's make a full caster. Kind of mixing it up. I don't know why I fell into the half-caster slump there for a long time. Not that it was really a bad thing. I enjoyed it. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. So, you've got your full casting. Where this differs drastically from something like a wizard, right? Wizards have a massive list of spells they can pick from. The Sealer also has a not quite as massive, but quite substantial list of spells. However, their spell list is almost entirely made up of utility, support, and ritual spells. You are going to be hard-pressed to find very many damaging spells, and even then, the damaging spells on there are fairly situational. We'll get into the specifics, I guess, once we go over to the spell list section, but for now, just know that this is basically the ultimate utility and support caster. That's its main job on the battlefield, which is going to be made a whole lot easier with seals. Foreshadowing. But once more, before we can get into that, there's some things I do need to get out of the way. So, importantly, this is a D8 class. Unlike the wizard, who has a measly D6, this is going to last a little bit longer on the battlefield, but this class does actually have to put itself in harm's way a bit more than a wizard, so that's why it has a D8. It also has light armor to help it out a little bit. And something kind of interesting here is you actually get tool choices. Not just like flat out, yeah, here's a tool. No, you get choices. A choice between 5. So these are all basically artistic and writing themed toolkits, which fit pretty well. This will actually be your spellcasting focus that you cast spells from. Who would have guessed? So, speaking of spellcasting, pretty standard spellcasting, and like I said earlier, this is a ritual caster as well. Put a pin in that. This is going to be expanded on quite a bit. Scroll Scrivener is your first unique feature. The long and short of this is going to drastically make it easier for you to write scrolls. It's going to lower the amount of time needed to write them, and it's also going to lower the amount of resources you need to spend money on to make them. On top of that, it's also going to improve your ability to use spell scrolls. So the spell scroll, the spell save DC and spell attack modifier for a spell cast from a scroll that you created is equal to your spell save DC and attack modifier. So this works for you, but also scrolls that you hand out to other allies as well, which is pretty cool. My thought with that, basically, was, as you're leveling up, right, you're becoming a lot more powerful of a magic user. But rules as written, if you decide to go back and write a first level spell scroll, it's gonna have a really weak spell save DC, which is kind of weird, and especially weird for somebody who specializes in writing scrolls. So I figured I needed to remedy that. Anyway, this one, short but sweet, very flavorful, and I love how it ties into the class. Liturgy. So if you have a spell scroll for if you have a spell scroll for a spell with the ritual tag on hand, you're able to perform that spell as a ritual without expending the spell scroll. Very cool. Super flavorful. I am very happy with how this turned out because it ties directly into this, and it ties directly into the whole support theming of this class. Very cool, because, there's no ritual spells that you're going to, sit down and be like, alright, time to summon a gigantic meteor to crush things. No, it's all just like, summon a horse, or let's put a little dome around us, relatively harmful, but very handy to have. Now, Seals. At 2nd level? Yeah, that's right. The namesake of this class, its namesake feature, does not come online until 2nd level. Why have I done this? Well, 1st level, you're getting spellcasting, which is a very meaty feature. And not only is it meaty power-wise, but it's also meaty, text-wise. It's a lot to read. Chances are people probably know the game if they're going into, third-party homebrew content like this. But I just figured, a big, huge wall of text, and then a smaller thing and a really tiny thing is a lot easier for people to wrap their head around instead of just like, alright, here's your wall of text, and here's another even bigger wall of text in Seals. Have fun. And if I wanted to do Seals at that level, I couldn't do Scroll Scrivener, and I definitely couldn't do Liturgy as well. And also on top of that, seals tie into your spell slots. In order to activate a seal, you do need to spend a spell slot. And as you know, at level 1, you've got 2. I thought that was just a little bit too taxing on the player to be like, okay, cool, well, I guess I'll make a seal. I know I've got 1 spell to cast. That's just kind of lame. I don't know. But yeah, it's a combination of all those things, and that's why it's at level 2. Balance. TLDR, it's balance. But what are seals all about? So, again, if you want to stop and read this big wall of text, go for it. Knock yourself out. But the basic gist of this is seals are made up of sigils. So your gameplay loop is you're going to be running around scribing sigils on the ground near you. You can scribe multiple sigils on a turn. Once you've got enough sigils that you're happy with, and you have an appropriate level of spell slot to spend to activate it, you can then go ahead, set it up, and imbue it with one of the sigils you know, which we'll get into a little later. But for now, basically just think of it as additional battlefield control that you can do over a pretty wide area. However, again, this is tied to your spell slots. So, the number of sigils that make up your seal, -2, is the spell slot you need to use. So therefore, like, the smallest one is a 3 sigil seal. So 3 -2, you need a first level spell slot. If you want a 4 sigil seal, that is going to be a second level spell slot. And so on and so forth. Now, scribing and activating a seal, I'm going to go into why I decided to do it this way. Obviously, activating is going to be an action. That's cool, you know, you're doing something pretty impactful. However, scribing sigils is a bonus action. Now, why have I done it this way? Because I could have done it like, oh, you know, you've got your action to set up your sigils, and then as a part of it, if you want to, you can, you know, press your magic into it and activate it. I just think that's kind of boring, for a lack of a better term, because the way I have it set up is, at least in my opinion, far more interesting, because of the fact that it's a bonus action. Obviously, you've got your action free, which means, because like ultimately, like drawing little things on the ground, it can be done fairly quickly, and also it's not really impactful. The thing that is impactful is actually activating it, which I already have covered as an action. So, this gives the player a lot of choice when going through their whole gameplay loop, because, you know, you want to go around scribing sigils, but you've got your action free. So your choice is to either activate it directly after it's done with your action. You are going to either cast a spell, or you can take the dash action to get around and scribe more sigils, or you can take the disengage action to make sure you get around safely. Now that sounds, to me at least, and I would hope to you, drastically more entertaining than just going around and being like, alright, it's my turn. Well, I guess I'll use my action to draw things. Well, there's my turn done. Okay, next player, it's your turn. You know, that's just really boring, right? Anyway, that was kind of long-winded, but I really needed to go through that, because again, that is like the thing this class does. Next up, or I guess we'll cover them in tandem because it's kind of important. You've got your sealing instrument and your signature order. So your sealing instrument is your subclass, and your signature order is your subclass. No, your headphones are not broken. You did hear me correctly. Both your sealing instrument and signature order are their own unique subclasses. This class has 2. So your signature order is your more traditional subclass, and this is going to help provide, among other things, it's going to provide bonuses to your seals. Like, all of your seals are going to get this extra added effect on top of whatever they normally do. And your sealing instrument is your tool of the trade. Think of, like, magical wax that you dripped to make seals, or a gigantic paintbrush, or magical cards you throw down on the ground with your sigils already inscribed into them. Each of them affect how you go about writing your sigils, and other things. Sealing instruments are a bit more free-formed, and they can kind of bleed into the other aspects of this class, being scrolls and rituals. But yeah, We're going to cover those a little later, but let's get through the base class before we do so. So, Artistic Pursuit, this is your pretty basic ribbon feature. You're going to get a couple of extra languages, and effectively gives you expertise in one of the tools you got, one of your painter tools. Level 4, whoa, what a surprise, who could have seen this coming? Oh my goodness, ability score improvement? No way. Groundbreaking. Absolutely groundbreaking. Anyway, over to level 5. Now this, I know that some people are probably going to go, oh wow, that's weird. Level 5? You're also getting 3rd level spell slots. Why are they getting something really potent there? And that's because this is kind of a requirement for this class to do its job. And also on top of that, at this level, other classes that are like full casters are getting things like Fireball and Lightning Bolt. Spells that are, in the developer's words, overpowered on purpose. This class does not get access to those kind of spells, right? It's a lot more subdued in its, like, supportive utility, right? So, that freed up some space, at least in my opinion, to make it so I can go ahead and do a 5th level feature. Now, what does said 5th level feature do? Well, this is Swift Sealing. This is going to let you walk around more. It's going to increase your movement, therefore you can get around the battlefield and scribe more sigils. And on top of that, you can scribe an extra sigil on your turn. Normally it would be 3, now it is 4. Again, pretty simple, but pretty required. Next up, we've got Ritual Adept. This is now diving back into ritual and scroll territory from here on out. So it's basically just makes it so you can perform your rituals faster, and also it gives you rituals that are basically fixed in your mind, basically freeing up your spells known, or not spells known, but spells prepared rather, for other non-ritual spells, or more ritual spells if you really wanted to. Next, a pretty cool feature, Decipher Arcane. So, given your aptitude for creating scrolls, you are well versed in the specific magic symbols needed to scribe them. As such, you are able to quickly decipher and utilize any scroll at your disposal. So, basically, I mean, I've gone this far, why don't I just read out the rest, because it's also fairly simple. You are able to use spell scrolls to cast spells, even if they are not on the Sealer spell list. The scroll is still destroyed after casting, as normal. So at level 10, if you've got a wizard in your party, who is gonna go ahead and, spend more money than you, and take more time than you, to make their Fireball spell scroll, they can now pass it off to you, and wow, would you look at that? Your Sealer can now blast people with a with a Fireball spell scroll. Pretty cool, pretty fun, but all in all, it's useful, but it's fairly niche, which kind of required on a full caster, right? You kind of need a lot of those, like, oh, that's cool, but I'm not going to use it that often, sort of features, if you know what I mean, right? Speaking of just that, Ceremonial Serenity. Performing rituals are now so second nature to you that they no longer take much of your mental effort. When performing a ritual, it no longer breaks concentration on a spell that you are currently concentrating on. Because if you didn't know, there is specifically rules in the PHB about this. If you want to pause and read, knock yourself out. But it's a pretty self-explanatory and simple but niche feature. Next up, we actually get back into the very meaty features, because this is kind of where fullcasters actually have the budget to do so. Pinnacle Scribe. This is a very interesting feature, and one that I haven't really seen ever done before. So basically how this works is whenever you're going to use a spell scroll, there is a chance that it's just straight up not gonna be burned. So if you roll the highest possible number on a die, it's just not consumed. So when you ever use a spell scroll, you consult the table below. So if it's a cantrip, first level or second level spell scroll, for example, you would then roll a d4. If you were lucky and got the 25% chance that it lands on the 4, that spell scroll you just used to cast the spell is not used, and you can go ahead and cast it again. And if you're lucky again, it could potentially, if you get that 25% chance, not be used up. This is a very potent, but very wild and swingy ability, and I love it. It's just a lot of random and a lot of fun, right? Because again, this class is all about making scrolls quickly and cheaply, so you're probably going to have quite a lot of scrolls on hand by the time you're level 18. And it just would be a lot of fun to be like, oh, let's pull this thing out. Is it going to be burned? No, that's awesome. Alright, cool. I'm just going to use it again the next turn. Oh, it's gone. Oh, well, I got 2 uses out of it. That was cool. Like, cool, weird, clutch situations like that. It's like, oh my god. I've got Scroll of Wish. I spent a ridiculous amount of time making this and a ton of money. I'm going to pull this out in the BBEG fight, cast Wish, use some crazy powerful spell that I can't normally do, and I roll my d20. I get the 20, it's a 5% chance. Oh my god, the Wish scroll is still alive, and now you've saved the party, right? You've defeated the BBEG just because you got lucky and were able to use Wish twice, right? So that kind of plays into the whole, I guess another theme I didn't really bring up, like preparation, right? Pre-planning and planning ahead, making sure you have the scrolls for the job and all that fun stuff. Then, Ultimate Arcanum, your final ability, your capstone. And as such, I'm just going to read it out verbatim. You have achieved the ultimate understanding of sealing magic. Creating sigils and seals are almost effortless for you. That word is not effortless. Effortless for me, though. Oh boy. Anyway, when you use your action to activate a seal, you can also cast a spell or cantrip as a part of the same action. This spell must have a casting time of an action or a bonus action. Additionally, as a part of this action, if you cast a spell of the same level or lower as the spell slot expended to create the seal, you do not need to expend an additional spell slot to cast that spell. So, a really cool feature, or a really cool way of using this, is basically having your party lure the enemy into a trap. Let's say you've made the biggest possible seal you can make. You have made this entire battlefield into a seal. You've put your sigils everywhere. The enemies run into the room. Your allies have, made a false retreat kind of thing. They're all in there. And then you activate the massive seal with a 9th level spell slot. And you can then cast a 9th level spell at the same time. Super cool. Again, pre-planning, planning ahead, being tactical, being strategic. That is this class in a nutshell, and I love it. And hopefully you do too. So that's the base class out of the way. Let me know what you think of that. But we have some more things to go over. I'm going to kind of blast through this real quick, because we kind of got the main thing out of the way. But these are your sealing instruments. So you've got your Aegis stamp. This one is more defense and retributive blindness at 11th level, like retaliation almost. Then you've got arcane brushes, which kind of do a few things. You've got, you can basically activate your seals from farther away, like go ahead and scribe them ahead of time, go hide in a bush, and flick your brush, and then they activate while you are safely out of sight. And it's also got an offensive portion as well. It basically splits your cantrips into two, so it's kind of like a mini Eldritch Blast, or a mini Spellslinger, if you've kind of played my Spellslinger class. So it splits your spells into two, so you can fire one, you split your cantrip, just cantrips. You can fire one cantrip at one person, and another cantrip at another person. It doesn't make them more powerful, it just gives you more chances to hit, basically. Because it, like, divides the power between them. The math is in there if you want to read it. Battle Brush, which, it's a gigantic paintbrush if you want to be a more brawly, kind of in-your-face, so like, oh yeah, what? You want to get in my way while I'm scribing things? Yeah, I don't think so. Whack, kind of thing. You've got your ink and quill, which is like full of cursed ink that you like throw at people, and it makes it more difficult for them to save or make saving throws against your seals, and eventually it makes it so if they fail, they take damage, or they fail a save from your seal, they take damage. Another more offensive option, if that is something you wish, Living Ink. For all you pet lovers out there, I know how much you love your pet classes. People. Most people. Everyone. Let's be honest. Basically everyone loves a good pet, right? If you want that, Living Ink is for you. Now, Ritual Staff. Funnily enough, I'm actually playing a sealer myself, and this is the one I chose. So this is for those people that want to go ahead and double down on ritual magic. You want to know all the rituals, you want to activate your seals as a ritual. Obviously not something you're going to do in combat, but there are some seals that you will probably want to pick up specifically for this because of the utility they offer out of combat. And then whenever you cast a ritual, you're like invigorated. That's once you get to 11th level. Pretty cool, pretty fun, and yeah, a lot more strategic and more requires a bit more thought than just like, yeah, I hit it good with the battle brush. But you know, there's something in here for everyone, hopefully. Anyway, then you've got your sigil cards. This is basically giving you an option to attack from range, or not attack from range, but set up your seals from range. So if you want to play things a bit more safe, go with this one. And the wax seals. This one is quite different, but very interesting. So this basically lets you set up a relatively weak wall of wax between two of your sigils that make up a seal. Possibly blocking a path, or maybe blocking a dragon's breath, you know? Pretty cool there. But that is it for the... I say that is it, but like that was 8 options to pick from. You've got quite a lot to choose from. And then on top of that, you still have to pick a signature order. which we have the Order of Artists here. This is basically... basically, you're drawing things to life, is the best way to put this. So this is kind of your summoner, but also it's got two sides to it. So it's really good at summoning things, but it's also good at changing damage types. So what I alluded to earlier, the scaffolding for this at 6th level and 14th level are going to be your improvements to your seals. So any seal you make, no matter what type of seal you choose to activate, is going to have this color palette effect. So while you are inside a seal that you created, you are able to change the damage type of a spell you cast using a spell slot or spell scroll. When you change a damage type using this feature, it can be changed to any damage type other than bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, or force. Those are pretty self-explanatory for balance reasons. But anyway, if you know, you know. On top of that, you can also potentially change an enemy's attack or an ally with your reaction. So, let's say you've got a Seal of Containment, for example. You're trapping an enemy inside and making it harder for them to leave. You've trapped a dragon in there. The dragon tries to get out, fails the save, can't. So what's it gonna do? Okay, well, it's just gonna use its gigantic fire breath all at the party. Except, yeah, no. How about no? Yeah, you just snap your fingers and use your reaction, knowing that 2 of your party members have armor that gives them resistance to lightning damage. That fire breath is now lightning breath. And those 2 allies are forever grateful to you because they are now taking half damage thanks to their resistance. Again, pre-planning, planning ahead, strategizing. This class in a nutshell. Oh, I love it. I love this class. I am very proud of how this turned out. Anyway, tooting my own horn a little bit too much here. Yeah, this, if you want to read this class a bit more, or the subclass a bit more, the Order of Artists, go right ahead. But, I do need to go over a few other things before we wrap this up here. So we've got the Sealer spell list here. If you want to pause, again, go ahead and look. Basically all support. And then we've got the seals list here. So, I'm just going to go over these 2. But if you want the rest, go and pick it up in the description down below. Go support me, please. I worked hard on this. Anyway, we got the Seal of Anti-Magic, which was a request by quite a few people. I believe this was Daryl Dominguez, another creator, rather. He's currently working on a Psychic class, which might be out by the time you watch this video. I'm not sure, but it's very cool from what I've seen. Anyway, he suggested more seals like this, and I was like, yeah, that sounds really cool. So I'm going to read both of these out verbatim just to kind of give you a better idea of how seals work. So once you've activated your seal and you chose the Seal of Anti-Magic, this effect now permeates the seal. So, the aura that permeates this seal can dampen the magic of spells cast within. When a creature you deem hostile attempts to cast a spell within the seal, if that spell is of a level equal to or less than the spell slot used to create the seal, that creature must make a saving throw using its spell casting stat. On a failed save, the creature does not cast the spell, and the spell slot is wasted. Very cool, very potent. And I know that Wizards is or Wizards of the Coast is kind of getting away from the whole spell slots used thing, but even then, a creature just simply does not cast that spell and waste their turn. That's still quite potent. And this one was the last to be added, but I don't know why it wasn't the first, because the joke is literally right there. The seal of approval. Why did I not write this down first? I have no idea. Anyway, kind of a meme name, but it actually is a fairly useful seal. This is a mind-warping seal that alters what a creature perceives that they can and cannot do. A creature you deem hostile that starts its turn within the zone must succeed on an intelligence saving throw, or fail or fall under the scrutiny of the seal. The affected creature must then choose either to move, take an action, or a bonus action. Once it chooses one, it cannot perform the others until the start of its next turn. So, there we have it. Hopefully this gives you a lot of insight into what the Sealer is all about. If you have any further questions, I would be more than happy to answer them in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord. If you didn't know, I do in fact have a Discord. So maybe pop on over, say hi, and find other players that also like my classes. I do have a group finder section if you're looking for players to find games with. Pretty self-explanatory there. I don't know why I need to go into that. But anyway, yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you all enjoyed. And I, of course, have been the Awesome Soul. And until next time, take care.